Good morning, friends. This is Phil. It's been quite a while since I've done a video. I think the last one I did was March of this year. It's already almost the end of 2022. We're in the Christmas season, so happy holidays to everybody. Merry Christmas. Hope everything is going well for you. The reason I decided to do this video, well, actually, let me start by saying that I haven't done a video in a long time because I've been super busy building my business. It's in the finance sector. I developed an investment fund for close family and friends that I've been working on really hard since the end of last year, 2021. So it's consumed a lot of my time, so I haven't really had the motivation nor the time to do any videos. But my last videos were medical in nature. I talked about the Wu flu and my thoughts behind it and why I decided not to get the shot or shots now, I guess, and why my family decided not to do that or take any types of shots to prevent any type of disease at all, um, especially like flu-like diseases. So that's what my videos were about earlier in the year. And now I wanted to draw your attention to another medical issue that's very pervasive today and has just ballooned in popularity, and that is transitioning from male to female or vice versa. And my thoughts on that and how it came about. And since now fully immersed in the finance sector and studying global economies, I will link the two actually, the medical issue and world economics and why they are so closely, um, at least in the last 2 years, so closely connected, and why there's such a huge push for gender affirmation. Not sure what gender affirmation means. I mean, 3 years ago, you would have asked what gender affirmation treatment was. It would be thought of as a psychological therapy to affirm one's gender, meaning that you were born a boy, but you think you're a girl. Uh, so we're going to give you therapy to show you that you're actually a boy and how to live like a boy. So the psychological disorder is called gender dysphoria. So for children, it would take a lot of therapy, and hopefully they would affirm their true gender, their biological gender, and have them live a normal, fulfilling life and have children and their own families. But now that's all flipped. Gender dysphoria has gone the way of the dodo bird because now and the gender affirming care is actually fueling the psychological disorder even more or encouraging it. You feel like you're a woman, but you're a man biologically, so we're going to make you a woman. There's no scientific reason to do that. And in fact, it probably goes against the Hippocratic oath of the doctors who choose to nowadays affirm gender as the nomenclature goes. But how it's linked to economics, it might be a stretch for some of you, but I've noticed this trend for a long time. I've been in finance for a long time. I've been employed in the psychiatric field for a decade and a half. I think my first job was in psychology as well. I spent all my time in that. But on the side, I've always been infatuated with economics and finance and trends and noticing patterns and the flow of money through world economies. So it's always been a passion of mine, and I come from a background of pattern recognition and strategy and analysis um, from my hobbies. But that's a whole different video. So What I want to draw your attention to is how everything has unexpectedly been normalized in the last couple of years. How now, if you suggest that somebody needs therapy for gender dysphoria, then you're a bigot. Um, you're not affirming their true gender. So everything's flipped upside down. Uh, Now, no longer does biology mean anything. It's actually how you feel. And there's nothing wrong with how you feel. There's something wrong with biology, however. See, that's how they want you to think about this issue. But why the push? Why the push? Why even children nowadays are uh, being encouraged to transition at a young age and start getting puberty blockers and even surgeries before they reach adulthood that completely sterilizes them for life, scars them for life, and then is irreversible. I mean, you wouldn't have a child uh, choose to drive when they're 10 years old, right? Uh, Even if they say, "Hey, I feel like I can drive. I've watched you for a long time. I think I got this," and they're tall enough to be able to reach the pedal and the steering wheel at the same time. You wouldn't just hand them over the keys, right? You wouldn't uh, start sending them to driving lessons and go for their license or anything like that. You would say, "No, sorry, but you can continue watching me. We can do a few lessons here and there, but you have to wait till you're older." And you can think of a slurry different other examples of why children shouldn't be doing or making life-changing, life-altering decisions related to substances, related to their identity, until they're much, much older and can make those decisions with some experience on their back. Uh, so, sorry, I went off on a tangent there. So the reason, in my opinion, of why this is being pushed so quickly and why this is now an immense issue, which changes the face of psychiatry and changes the face of the medical field, is linked to money. And I will go over how that is. So bear with me. So before 1971, uh, people had wealth. So every dollar that you had was pegged to gold. You could, so you knew that it was worth something. It was a commodity. It was not a fiat currency that's not backed by anything. You can't just print trillions and trillions of tons of gold. Um, so it actually had value. People were owners of those dollars. But all of that changed, and it started in the 60s actually. All of that changed when Nixon uh, officially unpegged the dollar from gold and it became a fiat currency. When you do that to a currency, it becomes devalued immediately because once a currency is not backed by any commodity, then you can just print as much as you want. The world agrees that the dollar is the reserve currency. So to them, it has value psychologically, but really it doesn't have value. You can't go into a bank and exchange it for gold. No, you're stuck with that dollar. And the people who print that dollar, they actually own the dollar. So it's owed back to them. Instead of people having wealth, people start having more and more debt. So you want to buy a house? Oh, we'll give you this money, which is owed back to us incrementally, and you can go get the house. You see what I'm saying? Anything that you want to buy is basically owned by banks. But it was encouraged. Around the same time, in the early 70s, they started um, developing these instruments of revolving debt, revolving credit, as they called it, the credit card, right? Everybody was encouraged to have it. It's the wave of the future. You can buy anything you want. You can now afford anything you want that you couldn't afford before because you didn't have the means to buy it. But now you have an unlimited amount of dollars. You could buy something that's worth $1,000, but only pay like $10 a month for it. So that was encouraged immediately. Not only that, but level upon level upon level of fake fiat currency was added onto downward system, this downward spiral system. And what I mean by that is not only did all the dollars lose value, but every time they printed more dollars, each subsequent dollar or each existing dollar lost more and more value. Uh, And on top of that, not only were the dollars losing value, but they added even more layers of fakery on top of that. So in the past, people owned shares in companies, right? All the pension funds, um, uh, everybody who invested were actual owners of stock. But that wasn't enough. Then they decided to have fake shares as well for companies. And how they accomplished that is by, in 1973, opening up the stock options trading market. Uh, and an option, if you don't know, is just a piece of paper or a right to buy or sell so many shares uh, of stock sometime in the future. So it's basically just a bet. If you want to buy a call option, that means you're betting that the price of the stock is going to go up in the future by a certain time, and then you can sell that option later on for a profit. Or it works the opposite way. If you expect the stock to go down, you could buy a put option, as they call it. So that added derivatives on top of the dollars, which is a whole different level of fakery. There's nothing, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. So they created trillions and trillions of more shares that don't exist, just like trillions and trillions of dollars that don't exist. Uh, and the reason they did that is to have you perceive that you had wealth, that you have this unlimited amount of money that you can spend, that you can make, without the realization that it's not actually owned by you and there's nothing backing it. It's owned by the banks, by the central banks, and by the large financial institutions, and owed back to them. And why is this important? And how is this linked to what's going on nowadays with gender dysphoria all over the place? And governments and large corporations all pushing for gender affirming care, as oxymoronical as that sounds. Well, at the same time, in the 1970s, because people started feeling more wealthy, because there were so many more dollars around and people could afford to buy more and afford uh, a quality of life that they couldn't in the past, they started having more babies. Now that I can own $1 million house or a $500,000 house, inflation adjusted, back then, and I couldn't previously, that means I can have a larger family. I can have several cars before. Now I can have many. Um, and people didn't realize that they actually didn't own those things. I don't know. They're owned by somebody else. You just are borrowing them, just like you're borrowing your dollars. So people started accumulating all of these things, not understanding that they don't own these things. And it's just been getting out of control since. More and more people being born every day, already indebted to the system. Uh, and the more money that's printed, the more people borrow, the more debt slavery there is. People are becoming more enslaved by the system, not understanding that they don't own anything as long as they're paying off debt. But how is that connected to what's going on with gender dysphoria? Um, because of the population boom, more and more money had to be printed to sustain more and more lives. Uh, and the system is untenable. Eventually, there's only so much you can do until inflation hits so hard that people are not going to be able to purchase water. Uh, so what is the solution? Well, What do you think is a solution? To decrease or contract the population. So they're not encouraging anymore for you and me to have children. No, they're encouraging the children that we already have to not have children. You see how that works? Not only that, but they're encouraging people and calling it healthcare to kill children. Yes, abortion, to kill children before they are born. Uh, Unfortunately, such a loose monetary system has allowed people the opportunity to not feel any consequence in their lives. So we're not no longer responsible for the things that happen to us that we didn't plan for, we didn't want. But we could have as much fun as we want, right? We can go and have sex with whoever we want and not take any precautions because we know that there's a quick fix to everything, right? We can borrow more money if we do something stupid and lose a bunch of money, or we could just kill off the baby if it's an inconvenience to us. It's a quick fix, right? So instead of encouraging people to have more babies and encouraging children to be their actual sex, their gender, XY chromosome, biologically, whichever sex you are, no, they're encouraging the opposite. It's a complete flip flop of the system. They're trying to make you be okay with not understanding what biology is, by not understanding what wealth is. They're trying to make sure that you're comfortable with ending life, even up to the point of birth. In some cases, after birth. It's a complete distortion of our values and our morals as a species. So that is how those are linked. In the last couple of years, ever since I'll just call them by their names, the Socialist Democrats took over the party, they have pushed through all of these things. And it's kind of like a joining of government and corporations to influence everybody and make everybody okay with the idea of contracting the population. Ask yourself, if you are on the side of gender affirming care and transitioning children and young adults, or if you're on the side of abortions up until the day of birth, at what point in your life did you have that mental switch? At what point in your life was it not okay to do these things? And I would argue that for a lot of you that are advocates of transitioning and advocates of abortion, I would argue that this probably happened in the last few years because we are so influenced by the propaganda, the constant propaganda of how it is immoral to take away a child's right to choose. It's immoral to take away a young woman's right to choose life or death for her child, even after they're born. So, just some food for thought. I really want to know what you think. If you are one of those people who are advocates for transitioning and abortion up until the day of birth, then tell me when. Tell me when. Or if you're not, if you agreed with what I'm saying, please leave a comment and let me know if there's anything you want me to go in detail about. Because I've done a lot of research about the economics of all these situations. So I'd be happy to do another video like this. And if you guys do like it, I'll probably do another video. Now that my business is kind of coasting, I do have a little bit more time to do these videos. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.